I stopped taking notes 3 years ago, and now I study less, I still get the same top grades, but I'm just less of a workaholic. Well, kinda. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Zain. I study at the University of Manchester and I'm starting medicine there this fall. In today's video, I'll be walking you through the ways I actively learn during my lectures, step by step, and how I manage to study all the content I have to do without wasting any time making tons and tons of notes. Like most of us, what I usually did was that I just copied everything off of the PowerPoint slides and then transcribed exactly what the lecturer was saying, word for word, without taking anything in. And then I'd leave the lecture with my comprehensive notes, ready to spend hours trying to condense them, using the best note-taking apps just so that I could make them perfect and then reread them a week before the exams. As if that information was magically gonna sync up in my brain. It was a lot of effort to make these notes. I'd spend all day trying to perfect them after the lectures and then I'd barely end up using them. It sucked. It wasted so much of my time and it was inefficient for a reason. Rereading and summarizing information is proven to be one of the least effective ways to learn anything. And there's so much scientific literature out there, I'll link some in the description. But despite this, all of us still default to note-taking and rereading. And there's a simple reason. It's because doing that is easy. It's passive and it's all we were taught to do in school. So when we do it and we have our perfect set of notes, we feel like we've accomplished something. We feel like we've been productive today. When in reality, the fastest ways to learn and retain effectively is by making our brain work harder, recalling information that we've forgotten, trying to test ourselves as much as possible. I realized note-taking wasn't the way forward quite early on, but it took me a long time to try and come up with a realistic and doable way to study and learn effectively inside and outside the class. It's so easy to zone out and get lost in class. I would just get stuck on that one detail, overestimate its importance, lose sight of the bigger picture, and then just zone out. That is why it's so important to scope and contextualize the lesson that you're learning today, so you know exactly what topics you're learning and where they fit in the bigger picture. Before the lecture starts, whether it's a day before or 10 minutes before, you need to scope that lesson out and know exactly what the big topics, the subtopics, and the takeaway points that you're going to be taught today are. And the way I do this is that at the start of every class, I go through the learning outcomes, the learning objectives that you see at the beginning of every lecture handout. Everyone I know skips past that bullet pointed list of learning outcomes that the teacher or the professor gives to you. But by reading them intentionally, trying to understand them, writing them down before the lecture starts, you can immediately gauge exactly what the class is going to be about. You'll know exactly what's important and what's not, and you'll create so much more time for yourself in class to understand the stuff that's being talked about at a deeper level. If the professor starts talking about extra stuff, you'll know whether it's important or not, because you know if it isn't related to the learning objectives that they've mentioned in the beginning of the lecture, then it's most likely not going to be on the exam. Second, contextualize the topics you're going to be taught today. Where do they fit in the bigger picture? Find out where each topic fits in the course or the syllabus structure of your module or class. For example, if in today's class you're being taught about nucleosomes in biology, what you do is that you go to the syllabus or the subject guide and find out where that topic is in which unit and how many learning outcomes or learning points does the examiner want you to know about. You'll be able to fit that topic in the wider picture in your head a lot faster. You'll be able to prioritize what you need to learn, and you'll be able to focus on making questions for the rest of the lectures on the right topics. Now, a lot of people claim to preview lectures the day before every lecture, and I commend you if you do that. But for me, whenever I made it a strict 1 hour preview that I have to do before every lecture, I didn't do it for more than 2 days. But by making it this simple 10 minutes, scoping and contextualizing what I'm going to learn in that lecture, I was so much more consistent with it. Because I knew it was high yield, I knew it was going to speed up my learning and save me so much time, and it was also just very low effort. If I'm being honest, I sometimes left this till the beginning of the lecture, so I'd scope and contextualize while the lecturer was speaking, and that's fine because the beginning is usually rambly anyways. I'd make sure to go through them, skim the lecture for 5 to 7 minutes, look up some keywords, get the main ideas in your head. I made it a habit to simply understand what was going on beforehand, and it was this simple thing that really made my learning so much easier in class. By scoping the ideas and the things that are going to be taught in class, you just end up knowing what to prioritize. You know what's important, you know what to learn, and you're just so much more switched on in class compared to the person next to you who still doesn't know what a nucleosome is. Instead of transcribing what the lecturer is saying and making a ton of notes, all I do is that I convert all the content I'm being shown on the lecture slides into recall questions. It's as simple as that, whether it's a Zoom lecture, in person, or you've missed it altogether. Whenever you approach a topic for the first time, create recall questions. No huge amounts of notes, just questions. During the class, I have the lecture PowerPoint open on one side and a document of questions on the other. I convert all the important information on these lecture slides and whatever's being said into recall questions. Making these questions forces you to actually listen in class. You can't just passively copy stuff off the board. You have to prioritize, filter out the important information, and then convert that into good quality questions that you can then practice at a later point. One quick tip on the question making: limit the amount of questions you're making per lecture. Because if you end up with this huge list of questions every lecture, you're gonna get very demotivated and you're not going to want to practice those questions. So look at the learning outcomes, know what's important, know what to prioritize, and make questions on only the stuff that you want to focus your practice sessions on. Improve, refine, and practice. Now that I've made some rough questions in class, whenever I end up revising that topic at home, the first thing I do is that I go through all the questions I have on there, no matter how good or bad they are, and try and practice and test myself on them right there and then, so that I can make my brain work hard on remembering what I learned in class. But after that, I'd sit down to improve and refine these rough questions I made in class and make them better using the lecture slides and the best resources I have for that subject. Because see, I didn't make the best questions in class, and these practice questions on this question document is my main home base for revision. So I'm more than willing to put in an extra hour to try and make them as good as possible for my future active recall sessions. Converting all the content you have to study into questions is a form of studying as well. You're deepening your understanding of the topic while you make the questions. You're being intentional about what you have to learn and what you don't have to learn. And plus, by improving these questions, you're just making it easier for your future self to active recall them and actually learn effectively using them. Let's get into practicing. Practicing and active recalling these questions is the main reason that you've put all this effort into making and improving and refining these questions. So for every revision session that you have for that topic, make sure the first thing you do is put a good active recall session in. Go through each of the questions, try your best to answer them, understand the information that you don't know, and then come back and practice them again. I'd usually try and answer 3 to 5 questions of the same type, and then I'd go back to the PowerPoint slides to review what I don't know, try and understand what I didn't understand, and see where that topic fits in that wider picture. If I still didn't understand something after looking at the lecture slides, I'd then go to the internet, I'd go watch a video, I'd go to the textbook. It's pretty simple stuff, to be honest, but it's this sort of thing, this sort of repetition of practicing, understanding, filling the knowledge gaps in, and then practicing again is what makes a good revision session. If you're big on flashcard apps like Anki, then go for it. Make flashcards if you want to. But do keep in mind that making them in class itself is a lot harder. So you have to put a lot more effort in to maintain a good quality set of flashcards at home. Personally, I don't create answers for the questions I've made previously because firstly, it's a waste of time. All the stuff I need to know is on the lecture slides anyways. And if it isn't, I can just look it up, Google it, look it up in a textbook, and I'll know it then. And secondly, not writing these perfect answers beneath every question makes my revision a lot more effective. When I'm practicing questions, I don't just get these 2-liner answers written down. I go back to the PowerPoint. I get it in a well-structured and well-explained context so that I can see where it fits in the wider picture and where it links with the other subtopics around it. It helps me not fall in the trap of just memorizing the answers for the questions. I have to go back to the PowerPoint and gain this holistic understanding instead. I said at the beginning that this is something that took me time, and it's true because I watched all the Ali Abdal, Thomas Frank, Karma Medic videos, but the truth is it's hard to just pick up someone else's way of learning and adopt it. You have to experiment. You have to adapt it to your way of learning. Everything I've told you in this video or even on this channel is a guide. Adapt everything you see to your style of learning. As long as it's easy for you, as long as it's effective for you, it's good enough. Because this isn't the best revision method out there. That isn't the best revision method out there. The one that works for you is the one that's the best. Anyways guys, that is how I process all the information I have to learn in lectures and study it effectively using my recall questions instead of wasting hours and hours making notes. I scope and contextualize the lesson, I make recall questions for everything I have to learn in lectures, I add to them, make some more, refine them, improve them, and obviously test myself on them throughout my revision sessions. If you'd like to find out more about the step-by-step practical strategies that I've used for years to study and that have worked really well for my exams, then check these videos out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, subscribe for more content in the future, and as always, I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.